So I'm getting on a live now, and I know that I haven't scheduled it, so there's probably a lot of people. Um, well, there's probably not a lot of people on right now. There's nobody on, and I'm not expecting that there's going to be people on while I'm talking, but I'm hoping that people will watch later on. And I'm getting on right now because it is 1 week before we start our next program, Med Missionary. And so I thought I should share with people. Daniel Silveira says, "Greetings from Brazil." Hello, Brother Daniel. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's wonderful. We have a program in Portuguese as well. I don't know if you are aware of that. Our Portuguese director, Joyce Ballou, will be going to a camp meeting there in Brazil this month. So I think Doug Batchelor is going to be there. And so I hope, I don't know if you're able to go and see her. So that would be wonderful. I noticed that we have a lot more subscribers lately, and I thought, a lot of these subscribers may not know Med Missionary or myself and how we started. So I thought that I would, introduce myself and Med Missionary and why we're doing what we're doing. Brother Daniel says, "Yes, you're planning to go." Wonderful. I'll let Sister Joyce know. That'll be wonderful. And Gina Risner's here from Kansas City. I see you on Facebook. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for being here. It's so nice to see names and faces, and then sometimes I get to see you in person, and it's just been really lovely. But for those of you who don't know me, and my friend Mercy, who started this program, I thought I would introduce ourselves. I am an ophthalmologist in the Pacific Northwest, and I work about 3 days a week. And then the other 2 days, I have to take care of things. I'm always trying to work on the ministry and, make sure that my home is still standing. And so I am working on this country living and, trying to get my garden in and this type of thing as well. And so there's a lot that is going on. But I thought, if you're just coming on the channel and looking here for the very first time, you might be a little bit confused about what Med Missionary is all about. I don't know if any of you feel that way. You can comment and let me know. That would be helpful, actually. And there probably are people who are a little confused. So I'll just share with you. We started this program, the Med Missionary podcast, in 2020. We started it around April or May. And you all know that there was something happening in 2020. And we felt like there really wasn't a place for Seventh-day Adventists to learn about what was happening. And so that's how we started the podcast. And then in 2021, we started an online course. And that's probably where most people know us from, 2021's course. We realized that many people did not know about medical missionary work, even though a lot of people were interested in medical missionary work. And so we started it to help people to learn these principles and then get their own experience and then be more encouraged to go and share these principles with other people. So let me share with you a little bit about the course, okay? And then I'll share with you why we're doing these things. So you may not be aware, but both Mercy and myself struggled with some health conditions. Mercy had been very healthy, but she ended up in the hospital needing blood transfusions for anemia, severe anemia. And I was somebody who had probably an antibiotic injury. I was put on an antibiotic that was taken off the market. It caused liver failure and death. And for me, it caused me to have a lot of weakness, progressive weakness. And as the years went on, I had chronic pain, fatigue, body aches. Then it started being like jolts of electricity. And as you can imagine, me doing eye surgery and having these fears that, oh, when is that going to happen? It was very difficult. Now, some of these things you might think, well, maybe I just have poor genes, and I do have poor genes. So I want to, let you all know that for those of you who are struggling with like MTHFR and you're thinking that, it's just your genes or that kind of thing, I do want to let you know that there is hope for you, that even for those of us who have bad genes, God's way of eating and these lifestyle choices will significantly impact you. Um, Even for myself, when I was going through these things and I struggled with fears about, will I be able to take care of myself? Am I going to end up on disability? I mean, that was something that I feared very much. And so in 2011, I went and visited a functional medical practitioner. She was working at Loma Linda, and she said that I had a lot of food sensitivities. And of course, I was very skeptical. My family was very skeptical. We had never heard about, well, not to say we'd never heard about this, because gluten intolerance was something that was coming on the scene. But I think that people tended to look at people like us, with these symptoms that you couldn't really put into a box and say, this is your diagnosis. People tended to look at these types of people as being sensitive. You know what I mean? Sensitive. Now, and the other thing that happened, she put me on an elimination diet, which I started, and the elimination diet was very helpful, but it was confusing. It was really confusing because here I have a master's in public health. I'm going to all these lifestyle programs and seminars and teaching people about plant-based diets and how to eat. And here I am suffering from chronic pain and brain fog and wondering about my own disability and ability to take care of myself. And I found myself in a little bit of a quandary because I was being told I needed to eat differently, that my plant-based diet was causing my problems. And so that's when I found out about the paleo diet that most physicians and scientists seem to believe in. And so for about 5 years, I was on an elimination diet, but I was really, wondering about these things and thinking about this and praying about this. And I had determined in my heart, I thought, I can't eat paleo, not because I think it's a sin to eat meat or that type of thing, but because of the whole philosophy that it is based on evolution. And I felt that if I were to eat this way, that I would be basically telling the Lord, I am going to deny this whole creation paradigm. I'm going to adopt an evolutionary way of thinking so that I can heal. And I thought that would be not only confusing, but I thought it would be a betrayal of my my walk with Jesus. And so I had made that decision already. And I heard from a sermon by one of our evangelists from Amazing Facts. His name is Gabriel Aruda. He had shared a sermon about how Years Restored and a woman by the name of Mercy Ballard had helped. And so in 2016, I went and visited. And it was very nice to meet Mercy and to find a friend who was so interested in gut health as well as in the spirit of prophecy. I found a kindred spirit. I found a mentor. I found, a sister. And I just thought, I should help. I should help someone like this. I should help someone this courageous. Mercy and her husband had started a lifestyle center together. And I thought, more people need to know about this. And to be honest with you, it was around that time that I was really being convicted that I wanted to do more to help in the medical missionary work. And I had been inquiring of different lifestyle centers, even mission outposts in other countries, and nobody was that interested in responding to me. But my friend Mercy was. And so that is actually how we ended up working together. And we did a program together. We wrote a cookbook together called the Autoimmune Plant-Based Cookbook, because we wanted to provide a resource to other people who were confused. And we wanted to help them to know that, a lot of very health conscious people who are plant-based, when they get sick, they think, well, I'm already plant-based. I'm already doing everything I can do. There's nothing more I can do. And we wanted to let them know there's more that you can do. And, there is a reason why so many people who are health conscious, who are doing their best, are now getting sick. And so that's why we wrote the cookbook. We wanted to provide an answer, a counterpart to this evolutionary way of thinking and eating. That was our purpose. And so in our course, the course that is using this cookbook as a textbook, we teach you about what is happening in agriculture. We teach you about what's happening in medicine, what is causing so much inflammation that, autoimmune disease back in, the early 2020s. I was looking at some research. I think it was sometime, it might have even been before 2020, where they were looking at the incidence and prevalence of autoimmune disease and finding that it was increasing at around 19% a year. It's amazing. Amazing. It's amazing that with everything that is happening in the world, all the insults that the devil is throwing upon humanity, that we are still alive and doing as well as we are. It's only by the grace of God. And God promises us that he will prepare a table for us in the presence of our enemies. And I sincerely believe that. I have seen that. And so this is what we are trying to participate with God in, is helping God's people to know what is happening in the world and why we might need to do things a little bit differently than we did maybe 50 years ago, at least 100 years ago. So we'll learn how to eat in a way that decreases inflammation, that improves how available the nutrients are that you do eat, and how your body can have the resources that it needs to be able to do what it needs to do: fight disease, keep you healthy, and keep you young and pain-free, hopefully, as long as you can. Now, this is a totally different way of looking at food, and it's a totally different way of thinking. So because of that, it takes time. It's not something that I could just have a one phone conversation with you and you would know exactly what to do. And so our course takes about 2 months. And even then, you will probably want to do it longer. And so we have a membership that you can sign up for once you sign up for the course. And that membership is an annual thing. You would be able to access all the future live courses for the course of a year. And you would have, in addition to the course, you would have the Thursday evening uh, classes, live programs that we have together. You would have a community of people that are on the same path together, and you'd be able to put on this type of program in your community. We have designed a program that people can put on in their communities and, uh, put these lectures on, do the food demonstrations, and we've heard amazing reports. Many people are interested in these communities about learning how they can do something that is outside of the known conventional way of fighting pain and inflammation and disease. So, if that sounds interesting for you, our next course starts on Sunday, April the 13th. So that's Sunday, April the 13th. We are going to be live with you every Sunday from 7 till 9 in the morning. And then outside of that, you would have your other uh, demos, food demos to watch. You have other little videos, 20-minute videos, 15-minute videos about the science behind what we do, about what the Bible has to say about health, and the history of medical missionary work in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which I think is a very interesting history. So I hope you'll visit medmissionary.com. You can also, on our YouTube channel, you can browse through this channel. You will see videos, testimonies of people who have recovered from Hashimoto's, from inflammatory bowel disease, people who are finding significant improvement in their allergies, people who've recovered from long COVID. Sometimes I don't know what words I can say and use, but yeah. So we have been finding, you know, a lot of different uh, chronic inflammatory issues are improving. But most important is this. Most important is that we are learning to trust in Jesus. I still have chronic health issues that every once in a while I have to really, really pray about and ask the Lord what to do about. And, that I am able to do all this is a miracle of God that I can, work and still do ministry, and that I am here. It is a miracle of the Lord. And so I don't want to let you, lead you on to think that to do this healing work, that it's just because it's simple, it doesn't mean that it is easy, okay? It is simple, it's food, it's lifestyle, it's natural remedies, and this type of thing. It's not that I'm against doing things that are more concentrated. I do take some supplements at times, and I have found some to be helpful at times, but this is not the purpose of our course. Our course is to teach you about the basics of an anti-inflammatory way of eating, especially natural remedies that will improve things, and thinking. I think this is very, very important. Now that kind of leads me to my next subject, is like, why do we have so many podcasts about all these other subjects in the church? And I just want to, let you know how it all comes together. Because when you're looking at my channel, you might think that it doesn't fit. And when we first started Med Missionary, it was actually called Advent Truth, because we were Adventists in search of the truth. And that has been my journey all throughout my medical career. When I became an ophthalmologist, that is my career. I spent the first half of my career trying to help my patients understand how their life choices were impacting their eye health. I am a glaucoma specialist by training, and And most of the time when you go see a glaucoma specialist, they'll put you on an eye drop to lower your pressure and this kind of thing. But there were a small group of people who understood what I was talking about and was interested. And they would be interested in losing weight. They were interested in stopping smoking. They were interested in making good health decisions. So each time I would see them, I would try to think, what is something that I can share with them that would give them interest in moving forward in their next step to better health? Because I was thinking, if they're interested in better health, I know that's the Holy Spirit. How do I know that that's the Holy Spirit? Because the Bible says that it is God who causes us to will and to do of his good pleasure. So I thought, I'm going to participate with the Lord in helping people move forward in their health, their next step, even in this 10-minute appointment with them. And then let's see what the Lord does. He's going to water this seed. And they would tell me things like this. They would say, Dr. Chad, this is very good. This is very interesting, but you are the only doctor who is telling us about this. And that was years ago. And so it may be that there are more doctors who are telling their patients about these types of things. But as I was working so hard to do this with my patients, as you can imagine, if you're seeing so many patients in a day and you're trying to figure out who's interested in this, it can be quite taxing and exhausting. And one day it hit me. It hit me that if I were to spend all of my time sharing with just these few handful of patients about improving their health, that at the end of my career, that I would have made a difference for a significant number of people, and that would be great. But wouldn't it be more high yield for me to try to figure out how to reach a larger group of people and make an impact in the way that people thought in general? And so that's how I started branching out of my medical career to speaking at churches and now to a broader online community. And that's how we started the course and this kind of thing. So one of the things that I would try to teach my patients is how to understand disease from a broader perspective. Like I told you that an eye doctor is usually going to try to treat things in the eye. Glaucoma, for instance, which they usually try to treat by lowering the eye pressure. They'll put you on eye drops and this kind of thing. But if you were to understand that your glaucoma, your eye disease, or whatever disease it is that you have, it is a condition that is manifesting in a specific location, but it is a systemic problem. It is a problem in your body that arises many times because of inflammation, because of genes that have been turned on, and there are things that may be helpful to helping slow that disease progression down. I'm not saying that it can totally reverse things, because we all know that once you have a disease, it can be challenging to totally go back to the way it was before. You always have to be more careful once certain things happen. So, that broad perspective, I think this is how I view medical missionary work. Just like some people only want to treat the eye when you have an eye condition or an eye diagnosis, it seems that people want to compartmentalize this medical missionary work so that maybe this medical missionary work, it should only be about natural remedies or maybe like new vegan recipes. And so this part was very confusing to me, and it might be to you too. This like, where does my search for truth, where should it end? Because I got into medical missionary work because of my search for truth, for true health. My search for truth for what does the Creator God have to say about what is happening with my health, with agriculture, with what kind of medicine should go into my body, and what kind of healing modalities I should seek for. Where does that search for truth lead me? And if it leads me to the Bible, then, and it's leading me to this body of worshipers, the doctrines here, and the way that people view this health message, what impact, what am I trying to say? I guess, I guess, sometimes when people say, I'm doing gospel work and you're doing medical missionary work, and it seems like there's such a, separation between these two, to me, it doesn't make any sense, because I see that the medical missionary work and all these testimonies that we have, all these stories, they illustrate all these principles in the gospel so well. That's what we try to bring together in Med Missionary. That's what I try to bring together in the course that we teach. And that is what I try to bring together in the podcast that we have, that unless God's people understand these principles of this search for truth, of true Protestantism, that you and I have the ability to understand these high and lofty principles that are set out in the Bible, that the spirit of prophecy then tells us that we can also extend onto our search for truth for health. She says that we can teach families how to take care of themselves, how the body works so well, so that they would need to call for a doctor as much as they would need to call for a lawyer, which is very seldom. So I think this is good news for us. When I think of the health message, it is an amazing testimony as to the power of God. And that is what we want to share with people. And the podcast, although, these issues may sound very, very divisive and that kind of thing, for me, it is simply a search for truth and a wanting to edify the body of Christ, not necessarily to do anything at the level of leadership. I don't know anything about politics or this type of thing. I'm not going to pretend to know. I am doing this because I want my fellow brothers and sisters to be as educated as they possibly can to make the best decisions for themselves. And so that is why we're doing what we're doing. That is why it looks like what it does on our podcast. And if I can think of a way to make it simplified, if the Lord impresses me to do that, we will try to do that. But if that sounds of interest to you, please go to Med Missionary. Consider registering for the course. April the 13th, we start medmissionary.com. You can sign up for the course and the membership at the same time. Or you can wait until you're done with the course, and then you can sign up for a year longer. Annette says, I have glaucoma, would love to know how to lower my eye pressure naturally. Annette, it is the same thing, honestly. With glaucoma, it is difficult to study because, it's difficult to look in the eye. Everyone has a different perspective on what the nerve looks like. And so I would just encourage you, diet, lifestyle, all those things. Exercise has been found to lower eye pressure. The more exercise and tolerance you have, the better your eye pressure. And there are certain herbs like ginkgo, things that are going to improve blood flow that can be helpful. They're talking about certain B vitamins that might be helpful as well. As I said, I'm not really into supplementation. I'm trying to do things with food as much as possible. I'm also not sure, they haven't really studied into food sensitivities, but I imagine that they would play some kind of role, as they do in a lot of other inflammatory conditions. And so I think all of these avenues are important to look into, because many times with glaucoma, it is a sick eye in a sick body. And that's what we find with macular degen. It's inflammation in the body that's manifesting in the eye. And so you have systemic issues that you want to make sure you're addressing. And lifestyle is a multifaceted approach to helping with inflammation and disease processes. You know, you're going to have all these laws of health that are going to be your doctors, and you find that you will slow things down significantly the more of these lifestyle principles you put into place. Okay, well, I hope that that has been of help for you, and I hope that we will see you April the 13th. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. If you have found this channel to be helpful, consider liking and sharing our videos. It really does make a difference. And so thank you all. God bless you. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you for another Sabbath podcast, and or hopefully in the course. God bless.